Hi, welcome to the Burton 4-H Center for our last Tuesdays on Tybee, a part of the From the Mountain to the Seas series. I'm Erine-Fay. I'm the Environmental Education Program Coordinator here. We're excited to have you all join us for Characteristics of Reptiles. Today we're going to focus on characteristics of reptiles. And on our board we have 5 main characteristics that we'd like to go over. The first and foremost important characteristic of reptiles is they are ectothermic. When you're talking about reptiles being ectothermic, that means they rely on outside heat sources in order to have their body temperature. So that's why you'll see them out in the sun, basking, trying to acquire the heat from the sun. We are endothermic, meaning that we're able to stabilize our own body temperatures. So a very important part of reptiles, ectothermic. Reptiles lay what we call amniotic eggs. They're not like chicken eggs where they're hard with a shell. Instead, they're very leathery light. Our reptiles also, when they are young, you know it is a reptile. They don't go through metamorphosis. Instead, when you see a young reptile, you know that it's going to grow up to be an adult reptile. So they look like miniature versions of their parents. As our fourth characteristic, all of our reptiles have either scales, scutes, and or claws or nails is what we like to call them. So scales is a very important part, as well as scutes on most of our turtles, and they all have some version of claws. And our fifth characteristic is air. They breathe air, and they all have lungs, which can be very interesting because when you think about our aquatic turtles, you sometimes often forget that they breathe with lungs too. So very main point and characteristic of our reptiles is breathing air with lungs, just like you and me. Our first animal ambassador we're going to talk about is Monty. He is a ball python. He gets the name ball python because when he constricts his prey, he rolls up into a ball. They're also known as royal pythons because they were thought that the Egyptians would also wear them around their necks. Now, Monty is not native to Georgia, so you would not find him naturally living here. If you were to find him in the wild, though, you would know, though, that he might look a little bit like some of our venomous snakes in Georgia because he has a thick body and triangular-shaped head. But those characteristics do not apply to him because he is a non-native of Georgia. Meet Apollo. He is our second animal ambassador, and he is a yellow rat snake. You kind of look at him, he has a round-shaped head, and he has a very long, thin body. Yellow rat snakes, as well as rat snakes, are native to Georgia. And we know because of that head shape and that thin body that he is a non-venomous snake. Please remember, too, that rat snakes that are native to Georgia are very important to keep in your yards and around your homes. The reason is that rat snakes love to eat mice and other rodents. And what they do is, by eating even one a week, 50-something mice in a year, they're able to help control animal disease in population. Apollo is also a little bit more active because he is young, as well as he's outside where it's nice and warm, going back to those characteristics of being ectothermic. He's kind of gathering my body heat as well as the sun outside, so making him a little bit more active. As you look too, he's got some really great coloration because he is native to coastal plains of Georgia. Kind of blends in with the sandy soil around here. One last awesome fact about Apollo is that he has what we call keeled scales. These keeled scales are a little bit rougher because being an arboreal snake, that means he's going to be found in the trees. Arboreal means tree dwelling. If it is a terrestrial snake, they're going to have smooth scales. It's an easier way to help them burrow and move around on the ground. These keeled scales help him to have a little bit more grip getting up the tree. Let's meet our third animal ambassador. This is Shoebox. He is a male eastern box turtle. Looking at Shoebox, you can tell that he's a male from his characteristics. He's got an orange skin in his coloration, as well as orange eyes. Females have more yellowish and brownish skin tone and eye colors. We can see, looking at some of Shoebox's characteristics, that he is what we know as a terrestrial turtle. We know terrestrial turtle means that he dwells mostly on land. And you can see, looking at the claws, he has claws that help him to dig through the dirt and through the shrubbery and through piles of leaves. When you're kind of looking at a shell, there's some very cool characteristics there too. The top part of the shell is known as the carapace. The bottom part of the shell is known as the plastron. What's really awesome too is that box turtles have what we call a hinged shell. So it actually opens and closes like a door. Now all turtles have this availability to their shells. And if you kind of see here, there's a little bit of flexibility there. So if he were to get frightened, he could avoid a predator by tucking his body completely inside of his shell. The last really awesome thing about Shoebox here is he's an opportunistic omnivore, meaning he eats a variety of fruits and meats. He may be found in the wild eating mushrooms or fruits, veggies, plants, as well as small insects, bugs, or anything he can kind of get himself a hold of. He's going to take the opportunity to eat it. Let's meet Wilfred. our Gopher Tortoise, our 4th animal ambassador. Wilfred is actually the state reptile of Georgia and is also another terrestrial turtle. You can kind of see he's got very big digging hands to help him to dig really long tunnels. As a Gopher Tortoise, he is the keystone species in the longleaf pine ecosystem. In that ecosystem, he digs tunnels the size of the length of a school bus, down to about 8 feet into the ground. And in those tunnels, over 200 species of animals can live in there. Wilfred here is also an herbivore, meaning he eats a lot of plants. Here at the Burton 4-H Center, Wilfred enjoys walks around the property, foraging through the grasses and eating all of our plants. All right, let's meet our 5th animal ambassador. This is Luna. She is a Diamondback Terrapin. Diamondback Terrapins live in our coastal marshes here and are the only turtle to live in brackish water in all of North America. She's got some beautiful characteristics here, and we know that she's actually what we refer to as a semi-aquatic turtle. If you look closely at her feet, she has claws and webbed feet. So that's why she's going to be found swimming through the tidal creeks and also crawling out of the creeks onto the banks of the marsh. Looking at her, she has this beautiful camouflage color. She almost looks like a Dalmatian, but these blotches and the black and white spots help her to blend in with our marsh mud. If you look closely too, she has what we call counter shading. She has a very dark top and a very light bottom, which helps her to protect herself and camouflage in the wild. As she's swimming, she looks like a rock from above, and she can also look like the sun from below. Luna here also is a carnivore, and in our salt marshes, she loves to eat the snails and the crabs that are found in the marsh. Looks like she's smiling, but she has a very strong beak that can crush through the crab shell as well as the periwinkle snails in the marsh. Let's meet our 6th animal ambassador. This is Captain Crunch, and he is our 2-year-old American alligator. American alligators are native to Georgia, but they prefer freshwater places. A lot of people question and ask us if they are found in our salt marshes, and they actually do not prefer the brackish water, that mixture of salt and freshwater at all. So they're going to be more in our freshwater places. If you kind of look here, Captain Crunch has some really beautiful stripes. When they are young and juvenile alligators, they have the stripes to be camouflage as they're hiding in the water in all the grasses and brush of freshwater places. If you look closely, he's also semi-aquatic too. You can see he's got some webbed feet as well as claws. American alligators also have some really cool features. If you look closely, you can see his eyes. Is what we call a second eyelid, and that's called a nictitating membrane. So it acts like goggles underwater, helping him to see his prey underneath the water. You can see his beautiful teeth too. Alligators may go over 2,000 teeth in their entire lifetime. They're constantly losing teeth and growing teeth as they go throughout their life cycle. Looking too at his beautiful smile, you can't see down his throat. That's because he has an epiglottis, so it kind of blocks the back of his throat, so that way he can grab his prey and eat it and not take in a lot of water at the same time. And there's beautiful, cool sensory pores all around his mouth, so that way he can lay very still, wait for this fish to swim around, and then sense the fish and eat the fish. Awesome, now we're on to our final animal ambassador. We're gonna meet Belle, our loggerhead sea turtle. Today we're also gonna feed Belle some food that we've prepared with the nutrients to help her grow, because Belle is still a juvenile, meaning that she's kind of like a teenage sea turtle. So she is not fully grown. Belle actually was found here on Tybee Island. She's what we call a straggler. So she unfortunately did not make it completely out of her nest. And so we've taken her on, and we've been working with her for the last 3 years and trying to help prepare her for the wild. So now we're gonna go in and feed her some Jell-O and fish sickles. Let's see what she does. Belle, as you can see, she is a loggerhead sea turtle because she has a really large head. Loggerhead sea turtles have really large heads, and they also have a very powerful jaw to help them crush through the mollusks and the crabs that they may eat in the wild. Loggerhead sea turtles are one of 7 species of sea turtles in the world, and they are very common and our most popular sea turtle species here in coastal Georgia. Thanks again for joining us for this week's Characteristics of Reptiles for Tuesdays on Tybee. This is our last episode of our From the Mountains to the Sea series. We just want to say thank you for supporting us and joining us each week. We hope to see you here visiting the Burton 4-H Center in the near future.